Who will be the next big name prospect to get the call? And what injured player should you be stashing on your IL? We got 10 great names for you, including 5 prospects and 5 injured players that you need to know about on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Arnay, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Arnay. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It's going to subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things on a platform like Apple or Spotify, that last 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And lastly, but what's most importantly to Matt and I and you guys, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth, personalized experience where you're going to get text messaging alerts going right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in these 30-minute episodes. And I mentioned it up top, we're talking about prospects today. And if you want to beat your league to the waiver wire when these prospects get called up, on Subtext, we're getting you those instant call-up notifications that are going right to your phone. Nobody else in the industry is offering that. So if you are interested in joining us on Subtext, the link is in the bio wherever you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. And did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. And all right, Matt, I think this is everyone's favorite episode of the week. You know, it's definitely one of my favorites. You know, it's definitely up there for me. And we got a couple of injured guys, a couple of prospects, and we actually teased the guy a little bit yesterday. If you stuck around to the end of yesterday's episode, you got the little heads up on this, so you might have been able to grab him, yesterday. But we'll give you a full breakdown. Matt, who are we talking about? Who are we talking about here?
We're talking Eury Perez of the Miami Marlins. And look, I did throw him in there because we had a little bit of time yesterday, but the ownership is still absolutely bonkers for me. 26% owned. The dude is due back May 26th. And he already had a rehab start coming back from Tommy John. And this is the craziest stuff. Hitting 98.4 miles an hour already and has thrown 19 pitches for strikes. It is just bananas. This dude is just already off to a great start. You know, he physically can't come back any sooner, but look, you want an edge going into the second half of this year, getting Eury Perez in your rotation is a no-brainer. That's the guy that's going to put your rotation over the edge. And I'm adding him absolutely everywhere. If you forgot who Eury Perez is, because he pretty much hasn't played for, more than that short little rookie season, unfortunately. Let me remind you what 2023 looked like in 91 innings. He had 108 strikeouts, a 3.15 ERA with a 1.12 WHIP. And also, his first 7 starts in the bigs was absolutely so incredible that he literally was unhittable. He didn't give up a single run. He was striking out everybody under the sun. Then they sent him down for some inning constraints and then brought him back up. He had a little bit of a rough start to go once he came back, but then went off all over again. Eury Perez is honestly the truth. He's going to be another pitching talent that's going to be talked about for generations. Eury Perez, as long as he could stay healthy, let me phrase it that way. He is somebody that also is going to be fantasy gold going in for this 2025 year. I am absolutely infatuated with the kid. If you cannot already hear it just in the tone of my voice and how I speak about him, but the dude is a monster. Do not pass on him.
So I don't know if I'm gonna take it as far as that he's the savior of a generation. Damn, that was some rant there. I love Eury Perez. He's definitely a very, very intriguing young talent. I just think we need to temper our expectations just a little bit. He has the makings to be an ace, right? but let's not forget he hasn't pitched in a couple of years, almost 2 full years. He was really good, in his rookie season, like Matt mentioned. I just want to see how he looks when he comes back. The first outing, 19 pitches, looked okay. Got to give us a little bit more depth. I think it's going to be at least 5-6 starts. Matt, Matt mentioned the end of May kind of looks like a realistic timetable for Eury Perez. It's just all about what he can do. If he can go out there, the pitches are working for him. Everything is rocking and rolling. He pitches in a good ballpark. Might not get a lot of wins on that Marlins team, but he could definitely suppress runs and strike guys out.
Yes.
He sits at around 98, and he was, back at that first time back out there. Love that. Want to see how the slider, his main secondary pitch looks, see if he could be striking guys out. He mixes in that curve and that changeup every now and then too, which are also decent pitches for him. So he's definitely a very good stash. Once again, Eury Perez, starting pitcher, Miami Marlins, only 26% owned on Yahoo. Definitely one of the better starting pitchers you can go and stash right now. And I will say this, I've been scouring that waiver wire for starting pitchers, and there's a dime a dozen out there, and very, even less than that can be who Eury Perez can be if he reaches that ceiling that he has. But let's keep things moving here. Let's go from a starting pitcher to a bat here. Let's talk about CES Christian Encarnacion-Strand, down to only 17% owned on Yahoo. He plays first base, DHs a little bit for those Cincinnati Reds. He's back hitting off a tee. It's a back issue, reoccurring thing, which has bothered him over the past couple of years. He might be out for, I want to say the way things are looking, another month or so, maybe at least 2 to 3 weeks here. He has to get back to running the bases, really swinging the bat, taking grounders, stuff like that. So he's got a few more steps that he has to hurdle. Has a lot of pop. He got off to a really, really good start first week, then slowed down a little bit, unfortunately. I think the injury, the back might have started flaring up on him a little bit, which caused the performance to come down. But Strand is, a perennial talent, right? A guy that could go out there, hit 30 home runs plus, driving a lot of RBIs, hit for a good batting average. So I think if he gets everything, right, hopefully this isn't like a Chris Bryant type situation where, just once the bat goes, it could be really tricky to ever get it right again. But he's young. Let's not throw him. Let me not throw him into the Chris Bryant territory yet. But Strand, could be really good. 17% owned on Yahoo. Hey, listen, if you need a bat that can go out there and give you a really good impact with power, RBIs, a little bit of batting average, even in a good lineup, Strand could definitely do that for you. It stinks to see the kid get hurt again, but has a lot of upside. Yeah, stash him where you can.
Yeah. I mean, quite honestly, I will say this. Last year, it wasn't really as much of a factor. It was that hand injury when he got hit by the ball, and he had to get surgery to correct it. Luckily, we didn't hear real remnants of it last year. So that's a plus. Hey, if we deal with it now, I'm fine with it as long as he's healthy for the rest of the season. Let's just hope he doesn't step into the, I don't even want to say his name again. Or the other guy I hate, if you can't tell, if you're not an avid listener, starts with an A and ends in Montesi. I don't want him to get into that because the kid truly has a lot of talent, and I'm excited for him. The kid hits the ball incredibly hard. You look at just like the average exit velocity that he's shown in the past, not this year yet. But Ken, in his short little stint last year, he was, crushing the ball. Let's see what happens over this year. I think that things are about to be on a positive swing once he gets back. I agree with you. Probably about 2 to 3 more weeks. They're at least going to give him a week of full-blown rehab starts before we even start considering him coming back into the bigs. But coming up next, since we've wasted a lot of time on these two guys, we got guys like Tyler O'Neill and a guy I didn't expect for Dom to ever put on a list, Lucas Giolito, coming up right after the break. And it looks like I hit the wrong button, but here we go. So, looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Check out a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you, unsaturated fats to help you keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shell variety, which I truly do. It's perfect grab and go snack that is good for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just a quick protein boost. I'm always on the go and it's ready to go. Quite honestly, I got kids, so who knows when I'm actually able to eat. So they really do come in handy. And if you love cracking open every shell for a satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are an absolute, classic favorite. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And look, Dom mentioned at the top, so I'm going to keep it brief, but you know, you want more than what we offer in this 30-minute podcast, check us out on Subtext. Links in the description below. We go above and beyond on there, give you a little breakdown, a little insight, and a little bit of prioritization. Plus, you can ask us questions. So check us out. I'm telling you, it's going to make your fantasy year a lot better than it already is. So join us on there. Links in the description below. But let's get back into it. Let's talk about Tyler O'Neill of the Baltimore Orioles. So my guy, somehow, shape or form, just is dealing with a neck injury that's been going on since before the season has started. It is now just, landed him on the IL. He looks like he's eligible to return on May 4th as long as there's no setbacks. And this is intriguing. I like Tyler O'Neill as a whole, you know, minus the batting average, which again, it is what it is. I mean, last year he hit 238. I mean, who cares at this point? The dude could just rock home runs all day, and that's what I really care about. That's why I really want him. Two home runs already this year with 10 ribs and 10 runs. Who could beat that? Who cares about the 215 batting average? He has like 40 home run upside in all honesty because of the power. I'm just excited to see him actually get back out on this field. I'm honestly, if I'm in need of power boost on my team or I'm falling behind, Tyler O'Neill is your answer. You're not going to find a bat that when he's healthy, because he's going to go down multiple times. This isn't like a long-term play. This is while he's healthy, add him. When he's not healthy, drop him and then pick him back up again to repeat. But Tyler O'Neill is going to be a boost to your team wholeheartedly. And with that Orioles lineup, it's probably the best situation he's actually been in my opinion, in his whole career.
Yeah, Matt. Tyler O'Neill is down to 59% owned on Yahoo. I expect that to continue to drop a bit here, as kind of people are a little bit over it at this point because he started off the season like a house on fire. If you look through March 31st, the guy was literally tearing it up. He had a 3-for-3 game, first game of the season. Then he had a 4-for-4 game on the 31st. But like Matt said, I think he's kind of been dealing with this all season, because on the 29th, he didn't play, which is the third game of the season. A guy like Tyler O'Neill is an everydayer. You'd expect him to play every single day, especially that early in the season. So that might have, kept him out. Then April 7th, he missed a game. And then after that, it was kind of like he just started missing games consistently. The Orioles threw him on the IL. So with Tyler O'Neill, Matt, you broke him down really good. If you need some power and you could stash him, by all means, go ahead. Don't expect him to hit more than 230, 240 with, 30-ish home runs. A lot of RBIs in that Orioles lineup. He was hitting cleanup. So O'Neill, if he's available in your league, stash him. Power for days. Let's move on to this next guy, Matt. A funny, interesting name here. And my buddy Jonathan's an avid listener, and this is one of his boys. So let's talk a little bit of Lucas Giolito. This is deeper league plays. This is for those guys that literally your AL onlys, your 15s, your where you literally cannot buy a pitcher for anything, right? So Giolito's working his way back. He's going to be activated Wednesday, so you got a little bit of time here to snag him. Who's that start against? The Blue Jays. Could be worse. He could have a worse team. Wasn't really great in his rehab assignment, over 5 ERA. Like I said, this is for people in deeper leagues that really can't find anything. There's a chance Giolito, back in the day, used to get some Cy Young votes, was a really good starting pitcher. Don't know how much is left in the tank here with Giolito. But I guess, like I said, deeper league play, that 7% owned on Yahoo. You could add him almost anywhere right now. Hasn't really been good since about 2023. But you know what? It's kind of a dart throw here with Giolito.
Yeah, I mean it's funny, right? Like Dom, you said it a couple years ago, and I'll give you credit. He was a spider tack guy. All that crazy movement and spin rate was kind of all relying on that. The second that got banned, the second we saw Giolito's career not plummet into the trench, but kind of more like a nuclear explosion, complete implosion of his whole entire career. But it is an interesting ad because if he could figure out something and adjust, which would be nice, it's going to be good. I also look at it, hey, if he's a cupcake matchup in his first outing, I'm going to do it. I don't know if I'm really stashing him. He's more of a watch list guy until the day he's activated. Then I'm adding him if that matchup is nice. But let's move on. Talk about Zach Gelof of the Las Vegas Athletics, and I like him. I liked him last year a lot, and he truly just disappointed me. He wasn't able to really live up to the expectations. I thought he had more power. I thought he had more speed, and None of that. Well, the speed kind of showed up, but the power did not. Through 497 at bats, he had 60 runs, 20 doubles, 2 triples, 17 bombs, 49 ribs, 25 stolen bases, and batted at a lovely 211. So here we are. My guy is hurt, dealing with a wrist injury, hasn't played a lick this year, and is going to be playing rehab games this week. You need a boost at second baseman. Simeon isn't doing it for you, or somebody else isn't living up to it. You miss out on the Campbells. Gelof could provide it. You saw the speed at least appear. Batting average is going to be atrocious, and I still think there might be some power there. Maybe 20 to 25 home run upside if we're really lucky. You know, you look at what he did in the past. In 24, he had a 90-mile-an-hour average exit velocity, barreled like 9% of the time, created hard contact almost 40%. And you just wonder, okay, we're going to see that level hit like we did in 23 in that short sample size where the average exit velocity was about the same, but he barreled 11% of the time, created hard contact 40% of the time, and that launch angle was absolutely gorgeous. But all the underlying stats of that batting average look like, hey, we'll be lucky if we get a 240 season out of him. Now, I'll take that, though, as long as I'm getting the power and speed mix. And the Athletics as a whole, I actually like the team these days. The Butlers, the Wilsons, all those players that
Soderstrom.
yeah. Like, Langeliers, like there's a lot of players on that team that actually could now. You saw the horrendous runs and ribby.
Did you even say Jacob Wilson? Man, Jacob Wilson.
I did say Wilson.
Great. No, yes, yeah. Well, that's why I was half listening. That's why I asked.
God, of all people, for me to forget. Oh, anyway. Like the lineup actually proves to be way more valuable than last year. And I was actually drafting him as a top 12 second baseman. So this year there's some upside. I think not just for his bat, but also for the peripheral stats of the runs and ribs. As long as he can manage to get on base, he's going to be valuable. Good base presence because he can steal the bases, and then the team is going to be able to drive him in. So no matter where they're going to put him in the lineup, that is going to really say and define what his actual season ending is going to be. He's definitely worth a stash in a deeper league. And then again, as we get closer to the activation, I start hearing he's going to make an appearance by next week. Yeah, I'll throw him on the ad because you know what? Even Jackson Holliday's sitting against Southpaws. You need some answer. So Zach Gelof is a fair person to stash this year.
Yeah, man, that's a great breakdown. A couple just words here on Gelof before I move on and we talk some prospects. I think we're selling him a little bit short. There's a history of him having a great hit tool in the minors and even college. Always was a 300 hitter, if not around there. Has 20 homer, 30 steal upside, but that's more of the ceiling we're talking. I think the ceiling on a Gelof is in his prime, like a 20 homer, 30 steal, 265, 270-ish type season with some good counting stats on this Athletics team that's been, pretty solid so far. But that's wishful thinking. That's, like 100. That's the highest percentile outcome possible. If he hits 240, 15 homers, 20 steals, decent counting stats, that's not killing you. And especially at second base where it's been really, really tough for most of us fantasy players at the position. So Zach Gelof, second base eligible, 13% owned on Yahoo, plays for those Athletics. Definitely a sneaky stash where, you need a middle infielder, deeper leagues. If you're anything shallower, probably just throw them on the watch list. Let's sneak in a prospect for the folks. Let's talk about Moises Ballesteros. Very interesting young prospect here. I like him, plays for the Chicago Cubs, catcher, plays a little bit of first as well, has a really strong hit tool. And he's been pretty solid so far. When I say pretty solid, I'm actually underselling it. He's been really, really good in the minors so far this year, hitting .414 through 22 games with 14 runs, 7 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 12 RBIs, 10 walks to 12 strikeouts with 3 steals. So he's not a super quick guy, but you know what? He could steal a bag, here or there, which is always, interesting when it comes to, catchers. Like I said, he's not fast. He's more of an opportunity kind of guy. So I'm not expecting like 10 steals or anything out of that. But at catcher position, if he's throwing 2-3 steals, that's helping out at the position. He could be a really good batting average kind of guy with, 20 homers and some good counting stats on this Cubs team that's been phenomenal. Hey, and for all you points leagues players out there, like most catchers, he's got a pretty good eye at the plate. That walk to strikeout ratio has always been pretty good. And then even if you look back at 2024, he had 289 across 124 games, 2023, 117 games, hit 285. So, Ballesteros is a definitely young, interesting prospect. If he gets the call here for those Cubs, man, I'm definitely going to go out there and add him. Definitely keep my eye on him.
Well said. Honestly, the little I know about him, I like. I just a matter of when is the question. I don't think there's room for him to come up this year. Just with how
I'll say this though, he could do a Kurtz. He could definitely do a Kurtz where he says, "Hey, listen, you hitting 414, you got to get me in that big league lineup at some point."
Yeah, yeah, sure. At some point, the problem is that lineup is actually pretty crowded right now. Even their catchers are playing well.
Carson Kelly is just hitting great.
Yeah. And then, I mean, what the only other place you could probably move him is first base. You got Michael Bush that's crushing the ball there. The whole team is pretty much just doing their thing. So I just don't see room unless injury kind of there. Then I could see him coming up, but then it's just a short stint. But definitely keep an eye out because there is some upside. But coming up next, we're gonna finish up all our prospects coming up. I'll give you a little hint on who's coming up on the other side. He is a condiment at the end of the day, and he plays for the Baltimore Orioles. But you'll have to wait and find out who that is coming up after this.
And all right, folks, the NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if you win. And me personally, I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or dividing into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. And guys, there's so many great teams out there you could bet on. Go for those Celtics, who are doing their thing out there. You could even go for who else is out there right now? Lakers aren't looking so hot, so that's out of the question at this point. But you know what? I love Jason Tatum and those Celtics. So go rebounds on Jason Tatum when you're going on FanDuel, right? And, they have so many, ways, because plus after, the game tips off, you can even combine your live props into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out and head over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. And all right, guys, Matt teased it there, so let's just get into it. Let's talk about Coby Mayo, right? And, Mayo got a little bit of a shot last year, 17 games, didn't look so hot. But you know what? I'm going to say it, and if you guys are avid listeners, know I'm going, progression isn't always linear. So we don't expect every prospect to come up right away and mash. But you know what? Mayo's been decent so far, in AAA. He got 4 homers, 2 triples, 6 doubles, 15 runs, 17 RBIs, a steal, hitting 256. That's over 24 games, but he's been heating up of late, and that's what we like to see. Listen, Baltimore, hasn't been as good as expected. A lot of underperformers on the team right now. If Coby Mayo keeps hitting, I could definitely see him working his way into that lineup. Might not be until the All-Star break, but you know what? Actually, Jordan Westburg did just get hurt. So there is opportunity there, with Westburg headed to the IL. I don't know if they've officially made a roster move. Haven't done much research here as we're recording on, Monday night. But that move might be imminent. So I would definitely just at least keep our eyes on Coby Mayo. Definitely deserves to be on the watch list. Interesting prospect that, has some pop, not really too much speed, but also has a very solid hit tool as well. So I would expect home runs, RBIs, and a little bit of batting average potentially.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I look at what he's doing in the minors, and I'm like, it's okay. I'll be honest, I'm not really impressed.
Listen, if that 256 batting average was 260, I think everyone would be talking a little differently.
I mean, we're talking a fraction of a point. I'm talking more of okay, you look at his minor league career, and it's 293 or 290. When I start seeing 256, and especially after the way he performed when he got to the bigs last year, that's where it's kind of giving me a little hesitance. And I also don't know if he's performing enough to thrust himself up either. It's just, I'm looking at it and I'm just okay, cool, bro. You had 90 at bats, you had 15 runs and 6 doubles and 2 triples and 4 bombs, but that's not crushing it. That's not being, being worth the start, especially after the poor performance. I look at it like this. If he's coming up after the All-Star break, and after he's really shown himself, and they're going to get more of a picture of what they really got in Coby Mayo. It's also a good chance he gets moved before he even comes up. So, or they bring him up so he can get moved. That'd be the only other thing, and we'll see what happens. But I'm not betting I'm not stashing him, and I'm not betting my chips on him. The next guy though is the guy I'm stashing, and I don't care when it is. It's Andrew Painter of the Philadelphia Phillies. Yes, I'm rocking the Philly hat, but look, this kid is just incredible. He's probably not coming up into the latter half of the year, but he is a difference maker as well. You know, his pitches just move in so many different directions. He literally can make it go 360 like you're trying to play Mario Party, spinning it so you can, destroy your person next to you. Like Andrew Painter could just do that with his pitches. The dude has absolute elite stuff. And coming off that TJ, the only reason I say the latter half of the season is the Phillies are going to be conservative. The only way I can really see it is if they really need to start getting a boost, then it's July, right after the All-Star break. But there's going to be an innings limit. I wouldn't be surprised if the most he pitches is 90 innings. But those 90 innings are going to be so magical, you're going to want every piece of it. So I'm stashing him now, and I'm just praying that he comes up at the right time to take over and dominate my league. So Andrew Painter, mustache.
Yeah, Matt, good breakdown on the former top prospect. Still very, very high in prospect, but he would, and it's crazy to even think about it. I think it was him and Grayson Rodriguez. That's how far back we're talking now. Were neck and neck as the top pitching prospect a few years back. But I'm trying to find some exact news on what's going on with Painter. Can't find too much. I last time I remember hearing about him, he was working his way back. I'm pretty sure he was throwing. The Phillies have no reason to rush this kid. There's just no reason to put the rush on him. But once we get the news that Andrew Painter's already 15% owned on Yahoo, and there's no sort of inclination of when this kid's going to be back. But once we get that news, that 15% jumps to 30 because a guy like Painter with the stuff that he brings, he's just the guy should be on all of your watch list. Should have notifications on for Painter. Just because once this kid gets the call, it's going to be fun times. Hopefully he can live up to the hype because the hype is still pretty real for a guy like Andrew Painter. Let's move on to another Chicago Cub, this time outfielder. Let's talk about Kevin Alcantara. Interesting young player. Once again, anybody that has a chance to come up and play for those Cubs right now is definitely super interesting. But with Alcantara specifically, he's been really, really solid so far this season, hitting .274 through his first 20 games. He has 12 runs, 5 doubles, a couple of homers, 10 RBIs. Walk to strikeout ratio is not horrible with 9-27, but could use a little bit of work with 5 steals. So this guy profiles as a kind of a speed power dude, a little bit of batting average. I really like what he could bring to the table. Once again, outfield prospect, and he's a big dude, 6'6", almost 200 pounds. Could be a 30 home run guy, 20 steal type of dude, maybe even a 30-30 on the higher end, depending on how he plays out. But, with the Cubs, they get aggressive with these young prospects. They don't really hold back. So, as that lineup is still pretty good, we were talking about it earlier. Hey, listen, a guy like him or Ballesteros wouldn't be shocked if, there's an injury or, somebody starts underperforming and the Cubs just want to say, hey, listen, we don't want to miss a beat here. We could keep things rocking and rolling, So I would keep my eyes on Kevin Alcantara. Could be an interesting young prospect here, depending on how the Cubs want to play things.
Well, I mean, all it takes is one injury out there and it's it. And, Seiya Suzuki, the Super Saiyan himself, can go down at any point in time. He's just as bad and, we'll see how that goes. And I mean, that's where the playing time is going to come in for Alcantara. He's definitely the next man up, I feel, coming off the farm system there. But let's move on. Talk about Alex Freeman, our last prospect of the day. My guy is, on the team of the Dodgers and is pretty interesting. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds. And, if you're not familiar with him, let me familiarize you. 507 at bats, 100 runs, 32 doubles, 3 triples, 18 bombs, 74 ribs, 31 stolen bases, and batted .260 in 2024. Off to a nice start this year, minus the power. 110 at bats, 17 runs, 12 doubles, 2 bombs, 25 ribs, 6 stolen bases, batting .309. He's an interesting one. I don't know if we're going to see the power because, none of the paces really ever show him being a power guy, but the speed is legitimate. So if we can get 15 home runs out of him with 30 to 35 stolen bases with a batting average of 260 to 265, that's key right there. That's That's going to be nice. These Jared Durand kind of players are nice, especially when they're coming off the waiver wire. If Freeland gets the call, I'm going to add him just based off of that. I'm going to have a consistent guy that's not going to tank my batting average, a guy that's going to be able to, show out some speed and then chip in a home run here or there. And if he able to make it onto that Dodgers, everyday playlist, that's the key here. Let's just hope he doesn't get dodgered and get platooned. So that's the only downside of adding any Dodger player at all times that isn't one of your main key cogs of that team. But if he can manage to get everyday play, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, man. Great breakdown on Freeland. Actually, don't really have too much to add except that he's 23. So it's kind of at the point where, the Dodgers might want to make a move, but they got so many young prospects. Freeland's even a guy that we could see get traded at the deadline where the Dodgers could trade for depth. And then it could be a Michael Busch type situation where maybe not even this year, but next year, Freeland, could really get the free roam. And he's a prospect that's been rising of late. On a lot of prospect boards, made a couple of changes coming into the year, starting to show off, with a great start to the season. Matt read you off the stats. One thing I want to point out, the last year, 91 walks to 133 strikeouts in 136 games. So the plate discipline is pretty solid as well. But guys, that is all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And shout out to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And you know what? While you at it, you might as well make our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB your second listen each and every day. But guys, until next time.
Peace.